2022 Hot 6 GSL SuperTournament Season 2.
GSL SuperTournament returns here. Another shockingly one-sided series there. Bunny 3-0ing Hero. I can't believe it, man.
I am surprised. I am very surprised by this result, especially considering, you know, how good Hero has become. Like, Bunny's unbelievable, and the DreamHack Finals was one of the best StarCraft 2 finals we've had in, it feels like, so long.
Yeah.
And so, like, coming into this one, I was thinking, like, okay, these are two titans of the game. They're going to butt heads. Like, we're really going to do a deep dive into PvT again and get a little bit weird with it after that previous Grand Finals. But instead, just, like, a clean 3-0. And you could tell that Hero was kind of trying to play the mind games quite a bit, but maybe he went a little too far with that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It did seem like, you know, he came out with some very cool ideas, but then it made it very hard for him when those didn't perfectly work out. And you know, Bunny just pushed and came through and killed.
Yeah, that's what he does.
It's very straightforward, and you know, that's one of the problems when you try to do a crazy mind game is these Terran pushes are sort of engineered to be a catch-all for most anything. Like that hidden third base that Hero took. It's like, that's so cool. But Bunny's just sitting there like, okay. And then he sees what he thinks is the third base. It's actually the fourth, and it's like, yeah, this will also kill you if you're on 4 bases. This doesn't really matter.
Adding a base doesn't make it easier to defend.
Adding a base doesn't actually help. In fact, you know, it only confuses Bunny before he kills you regardless. So, anyways, very different matchup here. Very different players now as we go into the second best of 5 of Day 2 of the Super Tournament. DRG versus Ryung, a Zerg versus Terran.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a mismatch, although on paper it might not look like that because these are two good players. I mean, DRG definitely has the edge in terms of form, but historically, DRG, his ZVT has been really good. In Ryung as of late, and also historically, his TVZ has been quite bad. I mean, like,
right.
just to be completely honest about it, I was looking up some of his stats before we came in today, and I think he's lost his last 4 tournament TVZ series without winning a single game to a Laser, RagnaroK, and Solar, if I'm not mistaken. I actually can't find my notes, so I don't know who he played, but yeah, it's been a rough go of it for Ryung lately in this matchup, and DRG is just a killer, man. Like, these guys are veterans, tried and true, and I think Ryung is really going to have to come up with something special here if he's going to win this series.
Oh, he struggles in the matchup from time to time, so we're going to see where he's at now. I think DRG is the right kind of test for him, and we're actually ready to go into that best of 5 right now, or as they say, game start.
Sir, DRG. Terran, Ryung.
By the way, one thing that absolutely blew my mind is when we met with our producer before starting the show today, we were getting some interesting stats about the players and their histories.
Yeah.
And we were told that this is the first official offline match between Dongregu and Ryung in 10 years. 10 years. Oh, hey, guys, all the way from Seattle and from DC, rooting for DRG and Bunny.
Welcome, guys.
Gonna be happy about Bunny with that 3-0 win.
Yeah, Bunny just destroying here. And by the way, that stat, if it's correct, is insane.
Yeah, that's, like, these guys have been with StarCraft 2 from pretty much the very beginning, if not the beginning.
But I guess there were periods where Ryung wasn't quite qualified, and that was when DRG was really at his best. So I guess there might have been some moments where, you know, we had GSLs they weren't both in, but this is kind of funny to see.
Even looking at the match history here on the bottom of the screen, 0-0 offline. So, like, I guess they're not counting the stats from like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah, or it might have been like an MLG or something like that they're talking about.
Yeah, I think it was like a GSL like season 5 or something in like 2012. I mean, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but it had some ancient StarCraft. And it's just baffling because, like, these guys, like, they're just, you would think that they have hit each other way more often than that.
Well, I mean, when you think of like how many times like you've seen, I don't know, Dark fight Rogue, or, you know, one of these, you know, Maru fight, I don't know, anybody. I mean, you get what I'm saying. Like that these guys have been so dominant and have encountered each other so many times before. But I guess these guys really just don't play each other. Now, there are obviously tons of online tournaments always happening at StarCraft 2.
Right,
I mean,
so we're talking about offline tournaments.
Yeah, so we're talking about basically a live event, like a studio event like this. But yeah, isn't that funny? They just don't really encounter each other.
It's crazy.
Now, DRG does have a better record with the online events. But you know, I want to see how Ryung plays here. Ryung, you know, this guy, he was like a superstar in the first couple years of StarCraft. This was one of the players that was mentored by Slayer's Boxer. Slayer's Boxer was like
That's right.
first, or I guess you could say second generation StarCraft 1 best player in the world. And you know, he made a team at the start of StarCraft 2. It's called Slayers. And Ryung really was like one of the heavy-hitting Terran players of the entire world for a while.
That's a trip down memory lane. I haven't thought of Slayer's team in so long, but yeah, Ryung, I mean, that was like an all-Terran lineup almost, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, yeah.
Ryung,
almost
MMA,
entirely.
Boxer, I mean, that was...
It was a crazy, fun, and exciting time. And then, you know, he also seemed, by the way, to be one of these players that thrived in these sort of team environments.
Like a team house practice environment.
I know people get like a little bit wistful when they talk about team houses and like, oh, the pros need to be in team houses still. And I'm like, well, that nobody wants to be in a team house if you can, you know, have your own place and stream from home.
I can speak from experience that it's very good for practice and very bad for your mental health.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. You have like
I need space, man.
15 guys sleeping on bunk beds in a Korean apartment. Like that might be an exciting idea to you, person that's not doing it. But but you know, with the way, you know, basically the ecosystem has changed where now all these guys can make enough money streaming that everybody's got, you know, a apartment, some big, some small, depending on the size of their streams. And then what I like about that is it's moved a lot of the training to a space that can be observed from online.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, it was like everybody was playing, but it was all opaque. And, you know, that was cool because you had these groups of people get together and practice. But now I think it's opened the game up for everybody. You know, now if you want to learn the game, you can just go to these guys' streams and ask them questions.
Yeah, the online side of practice is so much more fun. I do remember back like in the Pro League days, it was very rare to actually see a lot of top pros stream out of the Korean scene.
Well, not only that, but you have these guys, if they weren't like the top 4 players in the team, I mean, they get to like basically play one pro match maybe every 1 to 2 months. You know, so it was this very punishing environment where, you know, it's hard to thrive, where now it's a little bit better. But the whole reason why I was bringing this up is it seems like Ryung has not had that kind of success since being in the kind of streaming ecosystem that is, you know, very prevalent and pretty much, you know, if you're going to be a pro player, you're streaming as another source of revenue.
It's a good observation. He has had a little bit of an uptick in performance as of late, but TVZ is still a very tough matchup for him. And coming up here against DRG, it's going to be a tall order for him to break that losing streak and win this series. And he did open for a CC first opening, but this isn't the CC first at a 2-base timing that we often see from Terrans that can be so deadly. He added a very quick third CC, and behind this light pressure, he's just going to be trying to macro up back at home. So we'll see exactly what his game plan is in the coming minutes, if he's going to, you know, just try to hunker down and actually adding 2 factories. Okay. Huh. It's not exactly what I would have expected. 3 factories? Is he switching into mech?
I think he's switching into mech. Now, I don't know how smoothly this transition can be. Usually, you know, if you're going to go mech,
double wow.
You do it very, very early on, and you have kind of a slow game. Now, mech is never as popular as bio, and I think there's a reason for that, right? It's bio allows you to be a little bit more active. It takes longer to get stuff out of factories in the game where you have an amount that's meaningful. And so the Zerg can kind of run away with the game when you do that. But what Ryung's doing is he's basically behaving like this is a normal bio game. And he's masking his intentions pretty well. Back at home, he's got the factories, he's got the armories. But, you know, we got to see if DRG is wise to this, right? Eventually, you should see more and more bio units. And I was going to say, he should be faking that he's going into the main here, because if he actually does it, he's going to lose that, and then he's going to have nothing on the map, and he'll die to a counterattack. So this is all about appearances here for Ryung.
And it's a very good appearance, too. If I was DRG in this situation, I would not be expecting this mech transition. It's rare that we see Terran commit so heavily onto bio. I mean, this is 3 full medevacs of units. It's 30 supply and bio and Widow Mines. Oh, that's unfortunate. Losing a full medevac of Marines there is painful this early in the game. As you said, it's really bio that's a lot more flexible and maneuverable on the map, and so it's going to be tough for Ryung to, you know, hunker down and defend perfectly unless he has a decent number of Marines up until he gets, you know, maxed and fully set up.
But the problem I have just looking at this, and I got to be critical of Ryung here, and look, I like strategies like this because it's fun to see how they work, but I think we're also getting to see why this doesn't work, is look at how much creep's on the map.
Yeah, the tempo is very slow here.
I mean, this is like, you know, it's funny, like, if you end up in a mismatch, a lot of times, like, if let's say you're way better than the other player, and depending on the roles in the matchup, maybe you are kind of the passive one, like the Zerg is a lot of times in this matchup. The Zerg is, like, basically playing single player in a way where it's like you're going to get so much of the map here. Keep in mind, Terran has to eventually hack and saw his way through all this creep.
Not even any missile turrets here.
Yeah. And, you know, when you go for bio and spend money on those upgrades and then stop and go for, you know, factories, that's a long transition time. And, yeah, I mean, no turrets, nothing to defend here.
Yeah, turret's just now getting up in the main base. He will be able to deflect the Muta harass with those Thors, only losing 8 SCVs, so not a complete disaster, but will he be able to hold off on this push? The Hellbats are clumped, and Banelings get really good connections on them, and that's a lot of splash damage down here. So DRG, although he might not be able to use that as an opportunity to really breach this third base position, it's nice to trade out for those units. And yeah, as you said, Tasteless, it just feels like the tempo with this composition is really quite slow, and I mean, Mech is a very difficult composition to play because unless you play it perfectly, it doesn't really work. It's the kind of thing that, you know, in theory, if you play it to perfection, it should be so powerful. Like,
But
you're making the most powerful army in the game.
I mean, it's so map dependent too. I mean, this is a huge map. I mean, Zerg can pretty easily grow into both the top left and the bottom right here before you're going to be able to play that kind of turtling mech style. And, you know, I worry here. Every other base is kind of hard to get. I mean, there's basically one base that maybe Terran can get, and that's at 3 o'clock, a little bit below 3 o'clock, I guess.
Even then, it's a tough position to take, right? Against Mutiling Baneling, and the creep spread's almost there, as we're getting to see right now. So
this is going to start to look like one of those campaign missions where you start out as Terran on the map, and the whole map's covered in creep, where you got to move out on it.
You gotta, like, kill all the bases to get the achievements or something. Well, they're going to come in the main base and try and deal with this Mutaflock, which has grown quite a bit. Missile turrets aren't too scary for this Muta ball anymore. It's really just a splash damage for the Thor that's going to be keeping it at bay. So Ryung has to be on point with his defense. And just looking at the mini-map, and our observer is highlighting, Zerg is absolutely consuming this, all the way up at 96 workers, building a massive bank, 3K resources in total, while fully maxed. And I mean, that's even morphing in Banelings, right? It's making this army even more expensive. And beyond that, 3K res in the bank is so much, and here we go, DRG going to try and trade some of this out. Baneling's coming in, looking for another connection. That's a great armor shred there with the Raven. We'll see if the Thors are able to capitalize on this. Some damage coming in on those Mutalisks as they magic box the first Thor there on the third base, but a lot of this ground army for Ryung is getting traded out.
Now look at these key units that are picked off. By the way, most of the mutas just get away. So he goes back. Now watch the supply spike back up. 13 more mutas coming here. 32 lings. Excuse me, Banelings are going to be next. He's probably going to hit this same spot over and over and over again. And it's a real uphill fight. I mean, when you see the Zerg max out like this and the minerals and the gas collect in the bank, where Ryung right now is not maxed out, he's at 200 gas.
Yeah, unless Ryung is able to stabilize on this position, I feel like DRG will just continue to keep hammering here, either on the third base or on the fourth base, and just as you said, continue to remax, because, I mean, this 3K res bank, the only thing DRG is really lacking for right now is gas, but as long as he's able to make enough Banelings to at least trade out with the Hellbats, he's still going to get value out of Zerglings. Because any kind of Thors he kills, any siege tanks he kills, as long as he continues to reset the unit count for Ryung, his economy is just going to propel him to a victory. Because, I mean, the creep is everywhere right now. DRG's on 97 drones, and he has so many bases.
Yeah. DRG, I think, could even grow a little bit more here. Oh, guys, he's going to do that. You can see with the hatchery coming down here. But yeah, he's just going to try to hit another location again. Looks like he wanted to buy a few more Banes here. And in this case, he goes for the planetary because why not, right? I mean, you could just wipe that location out. It's going to be swapped on with another command center. Now, when you do this, you do have to be a little bit cautious here because you do this a couple times with just Banes onto a command center, and maybe the Terran's going to have some recovery potential.
It's a very expensive trade, but he just has the economy to continue to do it. And Ryung now getting the first counter damage in what feels like forever here. The 7 drones go down to these Hellions. That is a nice harass option from him. But like, you got to get a sinking feeling in your stomach a little bit if you're Ryung and you're scanning this. I mean, you probably want to take this 12 o'clock base as your 5th base, but it already has creep. There's a base right below it with a high Vespene gas. It's a very difficult position to play from here for Ryung. He's been so passive, and if he wants to stabilize, he's going to have to play even more passive up until he takes that 5th base.
Yeah, this is rough. Again, frustrating to play against Mech because it's kind of hard to ever really take the fight you want to take, but
it's tough to kill him.
It's tough to finish him off.
It's like you're playing an Age of Empires game.
Yeah, it's hard to close it out. But I got to say, man, I mean, Ryung's still in this, but you know the numbers don't lie here. The amount of the map that DRG has. By the way, there's something to be said about this is the first strat Ryung comes out with. I feel like it doesn't show a lot of confidence.
Maybe this is working for him in practice, or maybe he thinks that, you know, if he's able to hunker down and get that 5th base up and defend on 10 gases, he will be able to eke out a game in the super late game, right? But it's just kind of a scary tightrope walk you got to do, because one overextension or one bad engagement and Ryung loses too many key units, suddenly DRG is going to remax because his economy is absolutely massive. And to Ryung's credit, he has been able to stabilize on these 4 bases quite well. He's not taking too much damage.
It's true.
The early game was a little bit scary with the first Mutaflot coming in, picking off SCVs, and then the first couple of attacks over here on this 3rd base. But since then, he's been doing fine. My main concern right now for Ryung is not having a 5th base, because oftentimes when we see Terrans play TVZ, when they're not playing mech, when they're playing bio with a good number of siege tanks and then into ghosts, the Zerg strategy is going to be to contain Terran on 4 bases, because they can't really get that ultimate composition until they take gas geysers number 9 and number 10. And Ryung, he's playing an even more gas-intensive army composition, going for the Thors like this, playing mech, and right now he's adding ghosts, and it's only now because that he's maxed that he's actually starting to bank some gas. But if he loses any key units here, it's going to be really tough for him to replace them, because the Vespene geysers in the main base are eventually going to run out, and he won't really have the gas economy to actually make the cost-efficient units he needs to keep up with the Zerg.
And if you look at the gas economy for DRG, I mean, he's maxed out, but he's banking just an absurd amount. Now, that matters more for Zerg than the other races, because basically you can remake your entire army in a couple seconds with all the hatcheries on the map. So what happens is, and I think what DRG is doing is, instead of kind of engaging over and over, he's going to back up and wait for this 5th base. It's being taken now. So this is kind of the moment. He says, okay, try to set up a new position, then I'm going to throw everything at you. And I think we're going to have that moment happen here now.
Yep, Infestors coming in are able to neuroparasite a siege tank, and the Thor getting a nice trade here as DRG, as the Ultralisks also coming in, taking out another siege tank. And as we were talking about earlier, those are a lot of key units going down. I think that door will survive.
Yeah, forgive me, guys. But again, he's going to max out immediately.
Yeah, he maxes out again, and this is just going to be DRG's MO, I think, moving forward, is to keep Terran on just 4 bases, and maybe we'll see him make a big swell of Banelings and try and bust this planetary down yet again. But I feel like he doesn't even really need to do that. He can just continue to hammer the 5th base position and chip away at the key units that Ryung is making, because Ryung, like, if he continues to lose Thors and siege tanks and eventually ghosts, it's going to be such a tough spot for him. And DRG's bank right now, like, it's very rare that you see a bank like this for Zerg. 7K minerals and 5K gas is just unbelievable.
It's absurd, man, especially when compared to where the Terran's at here. So another attack in here. Now, will he just go for the Banes onto the planetary again here? Looks like he wants to go for some SCVs here instead.
Actually going for the Thor. The Ultralisks will clean up that planetary fortress, so Ryung's economy set back just a bit. And even if he does take those gases over there at the 5th base, it's going to be hard-pressed for economies. Now it's actually minerals that he's really struggling with. Oh my god, the changelings are blocking the Thor.
I know the Thor's doing 360s.
It's like, guys, let me move. Guys, talk to me.
So he wipes out that position. It's going to remax again. And really, you just need to look at the supplies here. 144. Zerg still with, you know, a comical amount of resources in the bank.
Yeah, this whole, wow, he's actually going to come in. The changelings boxed it in for so long, and then he clings it up with Lings and an Ultra. I mean, this whole time I was kind of harping on like the 9th and the 10 gas geysers, but actually like DRG has been so effective with these attacks coming in and taking out Thors, taking out Hellions, taking out Siege Tanks. It's actually minerals that Ryung is really wanting for right now. And
yeah, I mean, this is honestly, Ryung just picked a very obsolete way to play. This is not going to work against somebody who's, you know, a round of 16 GSL Super Tournament player. I mean, this is just, there's just no way to recover. I mean, this is, you know, we could talk about, you know, yeah, GG. We could talk about, you know, the early game all we want, but the reality is, like, if you're not playing in a way that lets you engage with the Zerg, Zergs usually win by just getting enough bases and reacting correctly. And, you know, DRG, all he had to do was not overextend, and he won that. I mean, it's that simple.
yeah, oftentimes at the top level, the way that we see TBZ play out is either the Terran is able to go for a killing blow either on 2 or 3 bases, and if they don't, their win condition is to get to 5 bases.
Right.
Siege Tanks, Ghost, Widow Mines.
Turtle, camp, make the Zerg overextend. He was on 4 bases for some of that game.
And even when he took the 5th base, he never really saturated it.
No,
I mean, by that point, DRG had already hamstringed him because he had built enough of a war chest that once that 5th base came in, he's just like, okay, well, I have 15K resources in the bank. Let's see how long you can keep trading out with me, man.
We're going to go to Waterfall for map 2. I wonder if Ryung's going to start doing proxy Raxes there.
Maybe.
I think we're going to get the hints of if this is kind of a desperation play or not, but Ryung opted out of anything remotely standard there. And honestly, a style we saw maybe 4 years ago, not really that popular anymore. I think we even saw it a couple times in Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, but it's sort of an old idea. You know, people have optimized their openings and style of play so much, it's kind of hard to pull a caper like that off. Anyways, guys, game 2's ready.
Game start. Sir, DRG. Terran, Ryung.
And I know we're talking about how that TBZ style is a little bit antiquated, but I did really like the opening there for Ryung, even though it's kind of like offbeat a little bit. Like making 30 supply or so of Marines with the medevacs to the Widow Mines and trying to feign that biopressure and then going into mech is a kind of unique play that even when players were doing mech, I frankly didn't see very often, but maybe that's because I didn't watch much TBZ back in the day. But I'm just struggling to see exactly how it works if you are able to, like, how do you get that 5th base up, you know? It's tough. I imagine if you don't take any damage during your mech transition, then maybe, like, you have to play the perfect game, though.
I don't see how it works anyways, because look, Zergs are so good at expanding, even when there's biopressure out, that it's like, the idea that you would have biopressure that you can't really do that much with, and therefore you can't really take fights. So Zerg's going to expand anyways, and then you're going to slow the whole game down and do like a hard shift into factories and all this other stuff. It's just a lot to try to pull off. Where you know the Zerg's just going to be staying back and surveying you, and you know we even saw that moment. You know, he had to spend so much to switch into mech. He didn't even have turrets to defend. You know, and I think what DRG did. You know, honestly, that was probably one of the duller games we're going to have today, but, you know, he just didn't overextend. He's like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Well, I'm going to stay back. All the mech upgrades are a little bit later, by the way.
That's true, too.
Yeah.
The double armory was quite late.
Yeah, so, you know, Zerg's already upgrading the units they're going to use anyways. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems with it.
I think it just kind of loops back to the reason why we don't see mech in general as this Reaper comes in. Zergling's about to pop. Actually, almost got that drone.
Yeah, I mean, mech, but it's funny because mech really did seem to have its moments. And, you know, there's a couple players who've been able to pull stuff off with it, like Gumiho's done some cool things. We've seen some cool games from Special as well, where he'll bring a mech play out. But
yeah, it's a little unfortunate they met in round 1 for that reason, is they kind of have a similar play style, which can be really refreshing to watch. But I think it's the kind of thing that if you play it perfectly, or if you play like a textbook game and not too much goes awry, maybe like 95% perfect, then it is a very powerful composition. Like, you're making the best units in the game, right? Terran mech with ghosts it's pretty insane.
It's phenomenal.
It's just so hard to get there, and with the way Legacy of the Void works as well, the game is so fast-paced and players are able to macro so quickly. Is actually we have a ton of more barracks. There's no factory behind this.
Well,
I like this mix-up from Ryung.
So this is, again, a very unorthodox way to play, but it's kind of the opposite of what we saw in the last game here. The last one, he's going to switch his tech and try to kind of have this surprise mid-game that maybe the other player can't deal with. This one, Ryung's just going to, like, put the pedal to the floor.
Yeah.
He's gonna turn it up to 90 miles an hour here, and just start to like try to push and try to snowball the game. But the problem is that he's not developing behind this. Now, if it works, it's great. If it doesn't work, it's terrible, right? So there's one of two ways this cast can go for us. Either we're going to be praising him for being a genius and winning, and it's going to look so cool. But if this doesn't work, then you're like suddenly stuck with literally no tools at your disposal to recover from.
Just bio, no medevacs, no factory, and I like this. I mean, whether it wins or loses, I like this as a mix-up from Ryung.
I like this build a lot better than the last one.
Especially like given the best of 5 like series planning, right? In game number 1, he tried this extremely slow style. Like he had the 30 supply of bio early, and besides that, it was just nothing but passivity from him. And this game just completely doing a 180. He's denying scouting here with the Reapers. DRG is able to see the tech lab and the reactor there on the low ground, but that
doesn't tell him anything.
Exactly. I mean, he could have a factory behind it. The only real way that DRG would be able to figure this out is if he came in with a speed overlord, which he is not opting to do this game. So this has the potential to really catch him by surprise, and that's a lot of Marines in the SCVs! Bit by bit!
Here we go. So, I mean, here's the thing. This could just kill DRG. It's important to remember that, okay, he's not going to see this. This is going to go right through his blind spot.
I think he might have an idea.
Okay,
yeah, he already started the Baneling Nest, though. So the response is coming. The question is it going to be too slow here for DRG? Only 34 army supply. A lot of that is tied up in these 8 queens.
Now, you don't have that many stims with the Marines. That's important to remember, too. There's nothing that's going to be healing this.
Oh, the Baneling Nest is in the natural expansion.
Oh, my God.
He's going to have no splash damage. The counterattack is able to intercept the reinforcements there for Ryung, but I think the main problem right now is this army is too big and the spine crawlers are only halfway done at that ramp.
The problem is that I think Zerg can kind of sack this base if he needs to. Again, it's not a fast-moving army. Okay, there's the first stim.
Okay, he's got to commit. Dropping a mule to try and block the natural ramp. I love that play here by Ryung, but DRG gets a really nice flank there with the Zerglings coming in. A lot of Marines going down. The Queens are taking a fair bit of damage here with the Transfuses and the Bio Ball. It's getting smaller, but so is the Zerg army.
That's it. It's so funny because it looked like that might have just been perfect. The Marines are going to continue to come in here. There are spines stunned now. A couple more links are going to hatch.
I think he's just out of steam,
That's
though. It's so close, man. I thought when that Baneling Nest went down that maybe he has enough bio just to kind of, come over here and run over the Zerg. But the Queens, they take so much damage, and DRG, his control was so on point going in with the flank.
DRG laughing, by the way, at the end of that game. He's like, all right, what else you got, man? You're doing your weird stuff to me.
It's a pretty fun situation, though. I mean,
that was
win or lose, you kind of got to laugh at a game like that one, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean,
he's really enjoying himself.
Well, I mean, it's also, I think, becoming more and more clear. Like, Ryung does not want to try to play a normal game. I think probably because he can't play a normal game against DRG. Well, by the way, that strat was cool, but there's something to be said about the fact that the Baneling Nest is denied.
And it still doesn't work.
You just killed it with Lings and Queens.
Yeah, I think maybe I wasn't paying too much attention to what the Marines were focused by, so I don't know if he was A-moving them or if he was focusing down the Queens, but it felt like the Zerglings stayed alive in the back for so long, and it was mostly Queens going down, which is not what you want because the energy is just going to translate into transfuses, and the Queens aren't much DPS, right?
Well, also, once he went back up to the high ground where it's like, no, I'm not going to fight you until I have more Lings. Beautifully done. I did like the mule landing on the ramp. That was cool.
Smart, yeah.
But ultimately, that's why you don't want to use that strategy. If you get high up enough, that's not going to beat somebody who's just, crossing their T's and dotting their I's. We're going to go to Tropical Sacrifice. We're going to see if Ryung is going to be our Tropical Sacrifice here in Game 3. Or if he can come back, because right now, DRG looking pretty strong. Let's go to that game now.
Game start. Sir, DRG. Terran, Ryung.
Man, you called it right after game 1, didn't you, Tasteless? You knew the 2X was coming.
Well, it's like, how many more ways can you try to, like, you know, basically rug pull?
Oh, the Overlord path thing.
No. Wait, I'm sorry.
DRG might actually see this. I don't see a waypoint, so I don't know if it's going to be shift queued anywhere, but I think it's just going to spot the barracks. Oh, this is the worst case scenario.
Right.
This is a scout that costs DRG absolutely nothing, and he's spotting the 2X.
Move the Overlord so it doesn't see it. Oh, he's going to send 3 drones.
4 drones, in fact, so...
Yep.
I mean, with this timing, and the barracks are so close to the natural expansion, I think he might just be able to fully deny at least one of them.
Well, this...
Oh, and the one in the back,
this
too.
is modern, by the way. You hide the 3rd barracks over there, but this is... All right, Ryung knows it's a bad day.
It's a bad day in the office, and you can really tell that Ryung is kind of digging deep in his tool chest to find any strategy he can bust out here as one SCV goes down. But, I mean, even more SCVs are going to have to come out for Ryung to continue the production here against these 4 drones.
The thing is, it's going to be 1 Marine coming out, which also isn't really a threat. You know what I mean? 1 Marine's actually just not that good against anything.
No, not even drones is...
Yeah, drones can kind of sort of fight you.
Oh, no, the SCV gets caught. Pathing there. 2 SCVs already going
MVP
down.
drones.
This is like that Legacy of the Void cinematic where like the probe works in the pylon, but this time it's the drones killing everything from the Terran. Their hero moment, as I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Ryung chap out very soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just don't think he can recover. This is like one of the funnier moments. You're just seeing drones kind of pick off you know, anything else that comes out. Now, the barracks it looks like they're going to finish, but you know, the function of this build is to start to push a hatchery and do damage. Now, I don't know exactly what the math is on how many minerals were lost, but I do know that really there's like no momentum right now from the Terran.
I think the win condition here for Ryung is to build up enough Marines where nothing else matters, and DRG is doing the smart thing and just moving out with this initial group of Zerglings and, you know, whittling away at the Marine count, so to speak, is these are pretty cost-efficient trades for him. Marines, as you said earlier, they're not very good in small numbers kiting away as the Zerglings just continue to connect, and this is going about as bad as it could possibly go here for Ryung.
Yeah, and you know, now the Lings are going to come down here. Keep in mind, sorry, is Ling speed being made? I guess he doesn't have a gas, never mind.
He doesn't need it.
Yeah, he doesn't need it. He can just keep making these Lings. And again, you know, the Marine, it's not faster than the Zergling. So, like, there's a command center being made behind this.
More Marines coming, or more Lings coming too.
Yeah, he forced a lift. And, you know, now, again, there's no Marines back at home.
There's no Marines, but the TRG would be, it would be tough for him to really get up the ramp just because of repair, but
sure, but I mean,
tempo-wise,
this just gets worse and worse is what I'm getting at. I mean, he's going to have to repair until these barracks can get all the way back there, land, make Marine, and then drive the Zerglings out. Oh, never mind. There's Marines back there.
It's tall order.
Sorry, everybody. I thought there was no Marines there.
Well, Ryung is going to do...
He's probably going to do a Baneling bust.
Oh, that's actually a really smart idea. That didn't even occur to me.
Let's see if he does it. I could be wrong. He might just go back into normal play.
It would be a winning move if he went for it, but the thing is, I'm not sure whether DRG has that information, because I think in a vacuum there's kind of 2 ways that Ryung could really try to come back from this, and one is doing what he's doing right now, which just throw down 2 more command centers and try to play the longest game of your life and just grind your way back, get up to 4 or 5 bases and go like Ghost Mech or something. And the other option is you land those barracks back at home and just keep making Marines and you just go again. So if Ryung had continued to add barracks and just like went for an all-in, then maybe a Baneling bust doesn't actually break that because there's too much bio.
Right.
I mean, in this case, Ryung is being about as greedy as possible. He's going for all the add-ons. He's going double engineering bay. He's going 3CC. But DRG's just going to play it safe. He knows that he is miles ahead, and he's going to drone up, take that 3rd base, and play a nice standard game from here.
Yeah, but it's going to be a very uphill one here for Ryung. Again, you know, there's something to the fact that he did weird stuff in every single game, right? And I think you got to be able to pull out these weird strats. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against weird strats. I'm not one of those guys that thinks like you got to play the game a certain way. But the problem is that you can't only do weird stuff, because then you become that guy where everybody goes, oh, well, he's going to cheese you or do something odd.
What is going on here? These little cat...
I never noticed there was a little campfire down there.
Like cat goblins doing this little like campfire ritual.
Yeah, look at him down there. What's going on down
there?
I've never noticed that.
Are those homes? Are they like little hobbit houses?
Something like that. little
What's the
caves.
lore behind these guys?
I never even knew that was down there. I never saw that on the map before.
It's so cool.
It's like little Ewoks or something. So Roach is where it's going to be. I guess this is in some ways better than just going for Banes.
Yeah, this is nice because it's kind of good against both worlds, right? If Ryung went for a bunch of bio, then you're going to have Roaches to deal with it.
Right.
If you went for 3CC, then you're going to put a little bit of pressure on, maybe, kill some of the bio count. Maybe you'll get some SCVs that come in to repair the ramp. So I like this play here from DRG. Just keep up the tempo, keep the game kind of simple. Because Ryung right now, he's playing about as greedy as possible. He's even going for a CC on the low ground here. It's the third base.
Yeah, now the third, I don't blame him for trying to take that, but this is going to be a real squishy spot positionally here. Now these Marines, they don't have, medevacs over them, so he can just intercept this.
Yeah, the factory's only 90% done, and Ryung recognizing the situation, realizes he has to stim out of this, but a little bit flustered as he actually attacks his own depot there for a moment. That's his second stim, so these bio units are very low on HP.
Yeah, I mean, eventually there's not going to be stims left, and these Marines are going to be touched and then die.
All right, DRG going to rotate down to the third base now, force the lift off and kill some more SCVs there, as all of Ryung's hard work building up this economy is gone away in an instant. 13 SCVs already fallen, and now this bio army very badly injured. He's going to kite forward, try and pick off some of the Ravagers. Third stim coming in. And DRG knows there's no medevacs. He just has to pull back and not engage the Stim Marines. And he will eventually be able to win this game 100 supply to 47.
Yeah, I mean, this is an inevitability right now. Another shot comes out here, blowing up the depots. The Lings, he just wants to make sure it's the Ravagers in the front. He doesn't want the Lings to come in when the Marines are stim.
DRG continuing to press forward here in the natural expansion, and Ryung right now just kind of digesting this loss, I suppose, giving it a dissolve, trying to fight, but...
Oh my God, all right, that's gonna be GG here. DRG with a very impressive 3-0 versus a pretty eccentric set of games here from Ryung.
Yeah, you can really feel Ryung just trying everything possible, everything imaginable to try and claw his way back into this series, but TBZ is just a really rough spot for him right now in his matchups. And DRG going to be advancing now to the round of 8.
Yeah, it's a rough one for Ryung. I mean, it is sort of a statement on where he's, at compared to the other pros here. And, whenever you come into a tournament like this, you got to do what you think is going to be best for you, But the problem is like, clearly he wasn't confident in his standard style. And then the kind of cheese he was trying to bring out, it just isn't going to work against DRG, so he falls flat. And clearly DRG is a better player and will be advancing. We're going to go to an interview now with DRG, see how he's feeling. He's moved on to the round of 8.
DRG defeats Ryung with a clean sweep, and he moves on to round of 8. Congratulations, thank you.
3-0 스코어가
Wow,
나왔습니다.
3-0.
이동원 선수 상대로 3-0 스코어.
You 3-0 Ryung just now, so how do you feel?
그냥 마음 편히 오긴 왔는데.
Well, I came here with an empty mind,
좀 많이 따른 것
and generally I think I was lucky at the end of the day.
최근 공식전에서 모두 테란 때문에 발목이 잡혔었는데요.
Recently, you were bogged down by the Terran players in offline matches, so how do you feel about that?
좀 제가 늘 하던 플레이에서 그냥 좀 신경 쓸 것들만 몇 개 추가해서 플레이.
I mean, I kind of added some, I kind of supplemented my usual builds, and it turned out to be pretty effective today. I mean, let's talk about Data C. Was the late mechanic from the opponent not that intimidating for you? I mean, I was a little bit startled, but I definitely felt like I had the build advantage. In the past, I would normally just tech into the layer and make middle lists, but I've been making some changes these days. And playing slowly was definitely the key to the win. In Waterfall, the Queen was able to fend off the army so well. So can you talk us through it? Björn actually tried to build before, and I fended off that time, and then this time, I was struck with the same build, so I had an easier time fending it off compared to the last time. I mean, DRG, you and Ryung are close friends, and this is an offline match between you guys in 7 years, so how do you feel about that?
조금 그냥 옛날 관할부터 해오는 선수랑 게임하는 느낌이라서.
I mean, it felt kind of reminiscing
올해
playing
박수호
against a
선수 GSL
long,
성적이
close friend of
굉장히
mine.
꾸준했고 뭐 10강을 늘
I mean,
통과했고
DRG, you're a very consistent player. You always make it to the round of 6, the round of 4 in GSL season. So what is your objective? What is your goal for GSL SuperTournament?
발목을 잡을 거라고 생각했는데 남은 게 이제
You know, I had a feeling that Protoss would be my biggest obstacle, but so far all the pros have been eliminated, so things are looking good. So it should be pretty smooth sailing from here now on.
굉장히 마음에 드시겠네요.
So you're pretty happy with the brackets right now, right? Yes, I'm very
8강
satisfied.
상대는 김준호를 3대 0으로 잡은
So your
이재선
round of 8 opponent will be Bunny, who just
우리
defeated
너무나
Heroes
놀라서
3-0.
정말 잘하는 이재선
And you know,
선수인데
Bunny is looking
이재선
so
선수는
scary
어떠세요?
right now. So what do you think about Bunny as your opponent?
팀원이라서 되게 까다롭기도 하고요.
I mean, he's my teammate, so it's going to be very tricky playing against him. And his momentum is looking so scary, so I'm a little worried right now.
2022년 처음부터 마지막까지 꾸준한 박수호 선수 계속해서
You know,
좋은 모습
from the
보여주고
beginning of
계시는데요.
2022 till the
마지막으로
end, you've been showing very consistent performance. So anything else you want to say before you go?
연도의 마지막 대회이니만큼
I mean, this is the last tournament of the year, so I want to yield good results and try to
다시 한번
wrap
8강
up the
진출에
year
성공한
with
박수호
good results.
선수에게 축하의 박수
And that's it with the
부탁드립니다.
interview with DRG. Congratulations. Thank you.
네, 이상 박수호 선수
All right, well,
만나봤고요.
props to
계속해서
DRG.
다음 주 목요일
Look, I
결승전
don't
안내해
know
드립니다.
exactly where he's at from those games. Obviously, he played very well. He shut down the cheese, but I think Ryung does that against any of the Zergs here, and those games look like that. So obviously, he's a strong player, but I think we need to wait until the round of 8 to kind of see where he's going to be.
Especially against
performing.
Bunny as an opponent. That's a
Yeah.
tall order, man. Bunny is playing out of his mind right now. First championship finish at DreamHack, and then here taking out Hero, getting his revenge in round number 1. And Tasteless, next Thursday, Super Tournament Finals.
That's right. Come down to our finals. We also are going to be on Monday. Information was at the bottom of the screen. We got to go to a break. We'll be right back.